Keep and bear arms. Those rights existed in the states prior to the formation of the Federal Union. In fact, the right to form militia and to keep and bear arms exists from antiquity. The enumeration of those rights in the Constitution only underscores their natural occurrence and importance. According to the 10th Amendment, ultimate power over the militia is not delegated to the federal government by the Constitution. Consequently, the power of the militia remains in the hands of the people. Again, the fundamental function of the militia in society remains with the people. Therefore, the Second Amendment recognizes that the militia's existence and the security of the state rests ultimately in the people, who volunteer their persons to constitute the militia and their arms to supply its firepower. The primary defense of the state rests with the citizen militia bearing its own arms. Fundamentally, it is not the state that defends the people, but the people who defend the state. The second line of defense of the state consists of a statutory organization known as the National Guard. Whereas the National Guard is solely the creation of statutory law, the militia derives its existence from the inherent inalienable rights which existed before the Constitution and whose importance are such that they merit specific recognition in that document. While the National Guard came into existence as the result of legislative activity, the militia existed before there was a nation or a constitutional form of government. The militia, consisting of people owning and bearing personal weapons, is the very authority out of which the United States Constitution grew. This point must be emphasized. Neither the citizen's militia nor the citizen's private arsenal can be an appropriate subject of federal regulation. It was the armed militia of the American colonies whose own efforts ultimately led to the establishment of the United States of America. While some may say that the right to keep and bear arms is granted to Americans by the Constitution, just the opposite is true. The federal government itself is the child of the armed citizen. We, the people, are the parent of the child we call government. You, senators, are part of the child that we, the people, gave life to. The increasing amount of federal encroachment into our lives indicates the need for parental corrective action. In short, the federal government needs a good spanking to make it behave. One other important point needs to be made. Since the Constitution is the limiting document upon the government cannot become greater than the granting power. The servant cannot become greater than its master. Therefore, should the chief executive or other branch of government or all branches together act to suspend the Constitution under a rule of martial law, all power granted to government would be canceled and deferred back to the granting power, that is the people. And I'll conclude with this statement: martial law shall not be possible in this country as long as the people recognize the Bill of Rights as inalienable. My statement is not complete, however, it has been made part of the record for those who would like to review it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Mr. Olson, I heard you say on national television that you could understand why someone would bomb the Oklahoma City Federal Building. How can you say that? How can you understand why someone would bomb a building and kill so many innocent men, women, and children?
I don't believe that's the correct context, Senator Specter. I believe the context was, when they were asking me about the dynamic that occurred during following the bombing of the Oklahoma City Federal Building, I was asked by Leslie Stahl, and I responded that I understand what took place. The good senator from Montana here earlier said that he understood why people hate their government. I don't think it's uncommon for us to seek understanding, because unless we understand a problem, we have no way of solving it. What I meant by that, and in the context, and you, Senator Specter, who sound-bited Leslie Stahl, and were wrong to do so, sir, you should have got the entire... Would you please allow me to finish my statement, sir? You should have received the whole context and allowed me to explain it. What I said was that I understand the dynamic of retribution. Revenge and retribution are a natural dynamic which occurs when justice is taken out of the equation. Back in the Old Testament, there were the cities of refuge. You who are students of the Old Testament know that those cities of refuge were placed in the Promised Land to allow a place for a person to run if someone's life were taken, that a relative would not avenge the life of that one. That awaiting justice. When justice is removed from the equation, then the dynamic of revenge, retribution, and retaliation will take place. I understand the dynamic, sir. That is what I meant.
Well, all right, Mr. Wilson, let's not deal in sound bites. Do you now understand why someone bombed the Oklahoma City Federal Building?
The Oklahoma Federal Building, I would give that information to the FBI. I understand the dynamics, sir. It is up to you to do the investigation, and I feel that the FBI, for some reason, has taken 7 to 8 weeks to find someone who is not guilty. I think it's about time that they start looking for the ones who are guilty.
Now, we'll pursue parts of that later, but I'm not asking you for evidence as to who bombed it. When you say you tell the FBI, I want to know if you understand why somebody bombed the Oklahoma City Federal Building.
It has not been proven that somebody bombed the Oklahoma Federal Building. The fact of the matter is that one person has been taken into custody. There have been allegations made. He is an alleged bomber. I believe that we in the United States of America have to wait until the justice system takes its course. We are innocent until proven guilty. I don't know why somebody bombed. I'm saying that if someone were to be held accountable for that, and if that was the act of retaliation, revenge, or retribution, I understand the dynamics, sir, of that, because justice has been taken out of the equation. And when justice is taken out of the equation, revenge, retaliation, and retribution will take its course.
Well, whether it's singular or plural, the Oklahoma City Federal Building was bombed.
What are you looking for, Senator?
Now, what am I looking for? Well, I hadn't finished my question, but I'll answer yours. What I'm looking for is your statement about understanding why the building was bombed, whether it's singular or plural. And you talk about vengeance, and you talk about retribution, and you talk about many factors, but what I want to understand from you is whether you understand, or stated differently, think there's any justification whatsoever, given your comments on vengeance and retribution, whether there's any justification whatsoever for the bombing of the Oklahoma City Federal Building.
Well, you're a clever attorney, sir, and I give you credit for trying to wrap my thoughts around your axle, but I'm not going to allow you to do that. Sir, it has not been proven that that person did that, nor has it been proven that that was, in fact, an act of retaliation, retribution, or revenge. We still have to wait the ongoing investigation. It very well may be that there was a conspiracy at higher levels, people behind those people who we have been fed by the press to accept or to believe that perhaps it was one angry individual. I say wait, let's do the investigation. Let's wait. 3 days after John F. Kennedy was killed, everybody believed that Lee Harvey Oswald did it. Today, many of us doubt that he alone did it. And you're the single bullet theorist, and you believe that he alone did it. We don't necessarily hold to that opinion, sir.
Well, if we can leave the single bullet theory for another day.
That's your choice.
No, I will stay and discuss the single bullet theory with you when the hearings are concluded. I'll be glad to do that on the record and in public. And I'm not trying to put any words in your mouth. I'm just asking a direct question. And I'm trying to understand what you understand. I cannot understand how anybody could understand why someone would bomb the Oklahoma City Federal Building as a matter of retribution.
Well, you don't understand the problem that we've had in Northern Ireland. You don't understand the problem that we've had in South Africa. You do not understand the hatred and the retaliation, the retribution and the revenge that has been going on around this globe since time immemorial. Then you don't understand the dynamics, sir.
Well, Mr. Olson, I may not understand, and that's why we've had these hearings, so that you could have a full opportunity to express yourself.
May I make a correction for the record, too? Senator Cole raised a poster a moment ago showing Hitler with his hand raised in the air. So that's a copyrighted poster produced by Jews for the Preservation of Firearm Ownership. It is not the work of some militia organization. So just to make that a comment for the record.
Well, we'll pick up your comment about copyrights and about Jews in a few minutes.
No, sir, I believe you're trying to lay at the feet. You're trying to lay at the feet of the militia some culpability as a responsibility. You're trying to make us out to be something that we are not, much like the press has tried to do over this last year. We are not what you think we are. We are not what the press wants to feed to the American people. We are people who are opposed to racism and hatred. We are people who love our government and love the Constitution. It has been the design and the blueprint for governments around this world. We're proud of the United States of America. But the thing that we stand against is corruption. We stand against oppression and tyranny in government.